Welcome back, everybody. I just crushed some chicken nuggets. I'm ready to party. We got Jake and ZP, the All-American casters, ready to be American for North America's cast. Jake, we got some good names playing, and we just saw some shakeups in EU. Is North America in need of a roster shakeup, or do we have enough good teams right now?
I mean, I think we're at an incredible place. Honestly, probably the most competitive we've ever had, the top of the NA Deadlock scene. I think this is about the healthiest the game has ever been from that competitive perspective. We have 5 teams genuinely competing here for slots in Night Shift. That's not been the case historically for Deadlock Esports, so I think it's a great sign for the community. However, it does prompt some challenges for us in terms of selecting who is actually going to come and compete on a given week here on the Night Shift.
Yeah, but ZP, USA is the greatest at Night Shift is what I heard Jake just say, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's part of that, but also to elaborate a little bit on the team note, some people saw the team announcement this week and we're going,
show the format, show them the bracket.
Where's FPS Lounge? What's going on here? Did they bow out after 1 week? It's like, no. In NA, no. We are just blessed with 5 really good teams right now, and it was time for Bird with Clock to get back in there because they're missing for 2 weeks. We are going to be holding a qualifier in NA from here on out, not a gigantic one, but just enough so the max the team will be out is 1. So later in this week, it's going to be no earnings taking on FPS Lounge to see who gets into Shift 33.
So like in North America, we have enough good teams to where we can rotate in our opening match. It's getting fun, Deadlock community. It's getting spicy. Catch up, Europe. Let's get into this matchup and talk about our rosters because the Floormen are fan favorites. Bird with Clock haven't been seen in a week or 2. We got to remind people who's playing for who here in North America. And are these still their best heroes? I don't think there's a better Viscus on the planet than Goober right there, Jake.
Yeah, I feel like that's always going to be a tech pick you're going to have to respect up against the Floormen, but this has proven to be a team that can absolutely contend for championships, being able to defeat melee creeps at times. So while they're still coming in here in the challenger match, they've got a ways to go before they're able to really contend for that title. This is a team full of well-known players in the space, right, who can all compete, who can all hang on that top level. I think a lot comes down to the drafts, their ability to have that hero flexibility, as we've talked about in previous matches. Goober, he's great in the Viscus, but what else can he play? What kind of versatility do they have in the drafting phase to take on their opponent?
We got Goober in the chat right now, chatting it up with everybody. He is a regular. He's also been interviewed by the great Liz. We're going to drop her YouTube channel for you guys to check out later. In the meantime, let's introduce the opponents for the Floormen tonight. Before you get to melee creeps, you got to get through Bird with Clock. Gibbs, Aiden the Destroyer, 8K, my favorite Vindicta sniper, Tanner, Cool Cheese, Arctic, and Matt. Let's start with you, ZP, most aggressive player on the screen.
Most aggressive player on the screen. I mean, sometimes I'd even argue it's Gibbs. I mean, Gibbs goes super aggro as far as support players go in a good way. But all in all, I'm really curious about this matchup and how it's going to go down because I think Bird with Clock has hero pool preferences that are actually pretty similar to Floormen. Last week, Floormen were able to run with Billy, Geist, Silver in just about every game. And Billy in particular, I think is going to be under very heavy priority for Bird with Clock on top of the Geist. So I don't think either team is actually going to be able to play the hero pool that they would ideally like because I think both these teams have overlap more so than they do with melee creeps. So I'm really excited to see the draft and how this works out, but also just happy to see Bird with Clock back in it after being gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I got to know, do you think there's going to be any Fiki eggs? That's QZ.
Maybe.
The egg is like, it's such a strange item, but it honestly seems playable to me. Like, I feel like there might be room for it. Maybe there's certain strats to get some extra value out of it. Lets you play more like passive stance in the laning phase, which is kind of interesting. However, I think these teams in general and competitive, people are going to be so focused on getting an early game lead, on winning their lanes and being able to spread their influence across the map, right? I think in general, it's gonna behoove these players to like invest early and often be aggressive. You kind of don't want to come into this BO1 with like a wild, crazy cheese. I mean, that would be a very desperate move. And I think both these teams are going to believe in themselves to be able to go into like a stable mid-game, stable, even late game and be able to find that advantage.
If you're not going to test cheese in a best of 1, where are you going to test it, Deadlock community? Bring me something to my ranked games. Help me climb faster than I deserve. We got Jake and ZP ready to break down the draft. And of course, before we get into that, we got some Mo v Krill fisticuffs. Whose Krill is going to get punched more? Whose Mo is bigger? It's time to find out. Z Pizzle, real quick, whose idea was it on this night shift to decide who goes first with the Mo v Krill?
So technically, I think I was the one that brought it up, although chat brought up the idea of a Mo and Krill 1v1. I don't really know the entire like ins and outs of like where it went there, but I think chat at least partially inspired. And I said, yeah, let's just do Mo and Krill 1v1 and have them fight it out. Also, it's going to be AVG versus Tanner to see who's going to get the choice of first
going
side
up
here.
against AVG. AVG has at least 5 wins under his belt. We've watched a lot of them. Jake, this is going to be a great 1v1 fight. We've got a whole bunch of new characters in the game, though 12 since we started the Mo and Krill 1v1s. Who would you like to see cycled into the 1v1 sphere?
I think the Mo and Krill melee only 1v1, it is just iconic, right? It is just, I think the community has rallied behind Mo and Krill. Muhammad and Kareem, as some refer to them, for quite some time now, and I just feel like it's going to be one of those iconic heroes in Deadlock. I think people are always going to have that. No matter how big the cast gets, people are going to have a special place in their heart for good old Mo and Krill. So there's something to be said about the classics here when it comes to the melee 1v1, and 2 of these frontliner players.
AVG and Yellow, by the way.
Yeah,
yes.
2 of these frontliner players. I mean, their ability to win in these melee 1v1s is actually pretty important for their actual role they play in the real game. So,
I don't even want to say the name that AVG is on right now, where we have the last Girardi versus Loaded. You can do the rest. The power of Steam names for the players that hopefully will be on the real names as we get in the game. But that's going to be AVG taking it for the Floormen. I mean, look, AVG was all sorts of pumped up, giving Jason details before the show, and now was also giving Tanner a little bit of hands in the one-on-one.
Much love to JP2 in the chat. Much love to Pen GG, who just dropped a 4-month sub prime. If you guys haven't already, dropped your subs while we wait on the first ban. It's about to come in. Celeste should be banned out after watching Hoot dominate on her. Does NA get rid of the lady? No. The man with the tornadoes is gone, Jake.
That's Mirage?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Mirage still top tier. I gotta say, I love AVG in the community. Having a pro player who is so like open to voicing his opinions and like explaining the way he thinks about the game. Love him or hate him. I think it's hard to disagree with like how good it is to have somebody like that in the community who speaks their mind, is willing to kind of have that level of discussion. So definitely friend of the show here on the Floormen, but friendship's only going to take you so far. You got to get the win here in the challenger match, and we have seen many a time Bird with Clock is not a pushover opponent. They're looking to get more than just a challenger match in. They want to go straight to the money match in this reappearance here in the night shift.
Furries are celebrating around the world as Silver is the first one locked in, ZP.
I think the difference that you're going to see here is, I don't know if it'll be right away, but Billy and, Billy is going to come in, and that's a different Bill
animal
we had earlier. Billy and Geist, I think, is going to be the 2 heroes that Floormen, they were able to play basically all the time last week. They're not going to have the same amount because Bird of the Clock also really highly values his heroes. I wasn't even necessarily expecting the Billy at first, but yeah, it's Billy Geist. This is exactly what I thought would be contested coming in and is being contested. So you're going to see a different look from Floormen where, they were able to secure the silver for AVG, but the other parts that they were running all last week, they're going to have to look elsewhere.
What is the Geist countering here, Jake? Why do you pick Geist this early?
I mean,
because she went 0 for 3 in EU.
That's true. I still don't think you want to overrate too much on a small sample size. I think Geist is just a strong carry hero who can be in the front line in the late game, and it's pretty hard to like bring her down in one go. And that gives you a nice presence to build your strategy around. It's not going to be foolproof. Nothing is, of course, in Deadlock, especially as Floormen respond with the Ivy and the Venator. Powerful combo in the late game. Ivy's a great support to pair up with these heroes that have big health pools and kind of want that healing as well as the fire rate increase. And Venator is exactly that. He kind of wants to just be a tanky guy sitting up front, dealing out that damage, putting some anti-heal down, which theoretically should help you a lot against Geist and Billy, both who want to rely on that lifesteal.
This is my first time seeing the Ivy big screen here. That's a great drawing. Like, clearly Mina was traced. Venator, that's a hand-drawn. I feel like the Ivy's a hand-drawn here as well, ZP.
Yeah, we got a bunch of different looks as far as the drawings go, from the absolutely sublime in Mina to, they tried for some of the other characters like Billy. What's interesting to me is I thought maybe we'd see the Viscous Band come on in. That has not been the case here so far. So they decided, no, we don't want to deal with Apollo. That's actually a little bit more horrifying. Kelvin Band coming in from Floormen.
Okay. I thought you were talking about the Floormen band. I'm like trying to figure out who these characters are.
I think that's Orange who banned out Kelvin there, yeah.
So Birth
Orange is on
they
our
go
tech
Paradox
team.
here. No, they go Lash.
Lash. Okay, you got the super TF Flash. I'm here for it. You know, I think this does give you a really nice team fight, especially against Venator. I think Venator does kind of struggle to deal with the Lash. You don't have the best mobility on the character. You get kind of set into the wrong spot in the team fight, and you could easily just kind of find yourself dying there, right, surrounded. Floormen respond with Yamato, though, a character that can shrug off those Lash ults with ease, has some powerful responses there. So I like this. It gives him a lot of burst potential, especially against Mina and Geist from a decent range now that they've buffed Power Slash.
As I look at it here, I wonder if Bird with Clock is setting up for the Graves pick. Okay, Calico comes in from Floormen. I think, honestly, getting Lash, like, I don't think you love the entire idea of, like, being Graves and dealing with Lash on the other end, just by pure virtue of the fact that, like, you can just get thrown in some really bad spots. But I don't think Graves got nerfed to the point that you're not going to see Graves picked in NA. But, okay, they go Warden at the very end for, you know, more M1 power. But this is interesting because you already have Mina and you already have Geist, so there's a lot of demand for farm right now for Bird with Clock.
I demand we go full screen on this Calico art next to Yamato. That's strength.
The Yamato is pretty legendary. That's some like oh my Paige.
Paige got them done. UK teeth, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh my goodness. This is, I mean, these are truly masterworks. I do think the Paige is going to fit really nicely with the Billy. Bird with Clock, they have a monster team fight, right? Billy, you know, groups people up. Lash follows up with the Death Slam. You've got like Paige ult to double down on that, as well as locking everyone down. So I will say, if you get caught in that kind of a wombo combo, you are just absolutely dead. Yamato, maybe one of the only characters, and maybe with the help of Calico, who might be able to just break those combos and maybe get out of trouble. But Infernus and Venator, it's going to be a potentially scary game for them to actually get into the team fights. They're going to really rely on their frontliners to bait out some of those key ultimates and make the fight work. Infernus definitely having a resurgence this week, right? Coming back into form. I think a lot of people realizing, hey, the damage he puts out is no joke. Probably one of the best single target characters in the entire game right now.
ZP, final thoughts on this draft before I give a big shout out to everyone behind the scenes.
My thoughts are we got the return of DMB Infernus coming in, where DMB was able to play Geist all of last week, is forced onto a different hero because of the early Geist pick, and we've been waiting to see DMB pull out the Infernus for weeks now. A lot of us have been saying, hey, he's still probably pretty good. Maybe, you know, grab it later into the draft over something like a Warden. And finally, with DMB having no Geist available and no Warden, which Bird with Clock also denied, it was just time. Infernus comes back into play, almost certainly going to be played by DMB.
Before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to everyone who tuned in since the start of the show. If you are just joining us, we started with Europe. We crowned a new champion. You can catch all of that action over on youtube.com/Deadlock Night Shift. In the meantime, let's turn our focus to North America. And a big shout out to everyone who's subscribed. We just hit 40 new subscribers. We are now within 500 subs of our goal. Help us get there. Help us celebrate with the great people that did all of the drawings on the production team behind the scenes. For now, take your eyes to Calico as she convinces you to drop your wallet on a new Prime. If you don't already have Prime, use your Prime sub to give it to Deadlock Night Shift and put the money in our bank account. On the mic for this one, it's Yamato alongside Calico and her cat and Infernus, played by ZP's best friend. Let's take a look.
I don't know where to go.
Game's not ready,
Jake.
ZP.
Like, yeah, the game's not ready. So I'm just saying we're actually just zooming in more so
we have to go
Wait. We're shifting on to Yamato. Honestly, the problem here, the forehead was not big enough on this drawing.
Yeah,
like,
I was asking for a tight on the collarbone, and then I couldn't tell, is that a shoulder? Does she just have awesome traps?
She's a bit of a blob here, but you know what? I'm here for it. I'm here for the impressionism. I will say, I'm looking at this draft for the Floormen, and I'm a little worried for them, ZP. I kind of think that they've built this draft with a mind to being ahead, maybe winning the lanes and tempoing from there. And I think if they can do that, it could look really strong. However, I think in a team fight scenario, it's going to be pretty rough, right? Like, I think the Bird with Clock has a pretty monstrous team fight ult wombo combo. And for the Floormen countering into that, they're going to need to have a lot of items to deal with those.
I also think they got kind of put into an unknown situation here too, where Floormen got thrown pretty far off their comfort zone. When you look at the heroes, I kind of, again, when I looked at what Floormen played last week and know what Bird with Clock generally like playing, I figured that you would have this hero pool conflict. And the reality is here, Jake, Floormen gave up a lot for the silver.
Yeah, I mean, it's the cost of doing business. I think it definitely a lot of pressure on Silver to have a particularly good game. Talk about a character that can, though, potentially survive some of those big wombo combos. I mean, Silver in the Lycan Curse form is one of the tankiest heroes in the game. So maybe can just have the raw survivability to get through that.
Ooh,
and I think for the... Go ahead.
This is interesting, Jake. It's not Aiden on the Mina. I thought for sure it'd be Aiden Mina. Instead, Aiden on Geist, and Matt's going to be on the Mina. It kind of makes sense with historical hero pools if you go deep enough, but for the most part, anytime a Mina was played, it was usually Aiden in the past.
Yeah, also Goober going to be on the silver. We've seen more and more of this from him. I think it's a hero that it kind of does fit his strengths, right? The ability to tempo the game and bring the pace the way he does, I think, on a lot of different heroes. But it, it allows you to stay more on the meta where people aren't really picking like the hard pick initiators currently in drafts, just not feeling like they're worth the investment. And it's nice to be able to have that flexibility. Some parries though on the sideline. Yamato with the rebuttal is going to have just enough heal, and that's actually going to keep him alive and allow the kill to come in onto Tanner. So well executed by AVG, but that one was way too close to comfort for Rocker.
Yeah, we gotta get players onto their real names. Well, AVG, man. I'm just, we're gonna have to ignore the kill feed for a good part of this game. Courtesy of AVG. But
you don't like loaded diaper, bro?
No, I actually not the biggest fan, as it turns out. One thing I'll say though, I think it's interesting because I don't think we've seen AVG on Calico in quite a while. Like it's a bit of a deviation hero-wise from what AVG normally is on, which is more frontliner to carry. But oh man, Matt in a world of
what a parry.
And as the parry comes in, Arctic eating steak after steak.
Yeah, that's a huge parry. I think our DMB could have been in real trouble there on the Venator, but instead he's going to survive it. Now a bit of trades coming in on this side lane. Tanner wants to get back into action. This is a Page Billy lane, right? Even though they lost a kill in that lane, they already did big damage on a Rocker. This one's not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. And mid lane, even a little bit of a dive here being attempted. Goober following up on some of that damage DMB dealt, and Arctic ends up dropping. Mina's coming back in. It's absolutely blasted off the wave, though.
Oh, also, we were talking about here, DMB and the Ven, not the Infernus. So despite the long history of DMB Infernus, like one of the most seasoned Infernus players, he just says, no, we got Ven draft. I'm the M1. Like, I will be Ven. Put League on Infernus.
I do think the Infernus build being run right now is a little bit more on the tanky side and a little bit more like of an early fighting potential where Venator really plays for that late game. One kill in the mid lane though was found, though they were able to find DMB, maybe playing a little bit aggro on those towers. Matt took a lot of damage but got the job done in the end. That's giving Arctic a really nice start on the ward, and one that you really need now. With this character taking a few nerfs, it feels like getting some of these early kills in the lane, getting some of that tempo rolling is going to be pretty key to you ending up in that strong farm position. Of course, he's also got to look to Aiden on the Geist to just really hit a deep late game timing. I think he's really become that player for this roster, right? The one who's going to play for the ultra late game. You're going to give him that responsibility. He's looked insane on some of the more tempo options like Vindicta, but I think what this team needs right now is for him to secure the late game, and we'll have to see in this one if he can do that in the BO1.
A little bit of rotations across the map here. Silver in mid, slam fire. Looking for Arctic and just says, you know what, I'm going to jail. It's not fine. It's absolutely not fine, but there's no other options. Matt able to finish it off on the Mina. And a little bit of extra poke here. Look for the love bites. Not quite going to get the last hit, but certainly... Oh, does get the last hit. Okay. DMB just peaks.
Page even rotating in there is actually quite nice, right? It allows you to put a lot of pressure on this Guardian. This is pre 5 minutes. It's kind of surprising to see that much aggression. Definitely a bit of a map control advantage right now for Bird with Clock. We'll see if they're able to turn that into some Guardian takes as Mina looks to continue to get active. And uh-oh, that's not so good.
Is that DC? DC, Nostad? Like,
yeah,
something weird just happened with Matt there. Okay, they're back in control.
One of our observers lagged out or something like that. We'll have to let's see. Seems like he's okay. He's back into it now. And Mina grabs a nice movement buff, which is pretty great to find. Goober also being traded with, and the double heavy melee from Gibbs absolutely blasting them here in the mid lane. Activity continues to pay off for BWC, really pushing the pace in this early game. And for this Floormen draft, I talked about this, like, you really don't want to be falling behind into a heavy team fight style. Like, if Bird with Clock get enough of a lead where they can start forcing objectives, I don't know if you can really respond.
Floormen's ability to come back from a deficit, it's not great with the comp they have. You're absolutely right, where you don't want to fall too far behind. On the pursuit once more, Page Billy here on the left side. Motto. Flying strike over. And yeah, I mean, for Floormen, the challenge here is not falling too far behind. I think so far, Matt's done an incredibly good job of just being able to rotate around. And at 5.1k, also like, starting to get a little bit ahead on the Mina, which is incredibly dangerous given the fact that Mina, you know, her early game isn't as good as it used to be. And it's compensated for by a better late game. So one of the worst things you're going to have happen is your Mina have a good early game in her current form.
Here's the Mina ult over the top. Silver, though, evades most of the damage. He's very close to getting that ultimate. Needs a couple more creeps to unlock it. Goober really trying to push the limits after struggling in the early game on this mid lane.
They don't want to play nice. No reason I should.
Silver, honestly, I don't think it's the worst hero in the game to have a little bit of a weaker start on, right? You can still just get a lot done with the Lycan Curse, even if your items aren't the greatest. But it does mean that your late game damage threat into things like Geist and Warden won't be as threatening.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, though, because I also feel like for Silver, you like getting out of lane at a good spot. Full attempt on the Mina. Mina just able to get away into the jail, and Cooper's dead again! The punish is there. And the problem for Silver is that, for Silver, you don't love being someone taking a ton of jungle farm, so you like getting out of lane phase and good farm, and then your ability to rotate around the map, like, is pretty effective at that point. But Cooper's gonna have to do some remedial soul gathering to be a threat in this game, the way that this lane phase has just been pretty rough so far.
Yeah, I really like the Warden into this matchup. Big stun, though, onto the Mina. I believe Shotgun connects there. Lash ulti, though, over the top is going to just send Goober into a world of hurt. Still healthy, though, on the Silver. He does get the ultimate off, but just caught in the Warden trap, burned down by the ultimate. Even all the tankiness of Silver isn't quite enough. It does do a lot of damage, though, and DMB hoping to clean up here with the Air Domini. Is he able to put that damage down, putting a lot of pressure on Live, who steps into the trap. Lash could find himself in trouble, but DMB also low. Doesn't want to risk death here on the carry.
Jake, how many times has Goober died in this first part of the game?
3 or 4. I mean, this is a pretty much a bloodbath early game. However, the game is pretty even on souls. So, like, there's victories elsewhere on the map to compensate. DMB getting a lot of solo souls out of this lane. So it does feel bad for Goober, but in the end, you know, if DMB is profiting, it's actually not the worst thing in the world. Matt, though, onto a very hot start on this Mina. Like, a lot of the kills going his way. And we have seen Mina be a character that can take over games, especially with this level of team fight to back up when she goes for these, like, risky, aggressive moves. There's a lot of follow-up behind those if the team is there to support. So I could see Matt really getting explosive in this game, and Bird with Clock just booking a ticket to the money match off the back of that.
Matt right now is actually approaching server admin status to be, well, actually, no, not quite. Look at Floormen. I mean, AVG and DMB have, like, kept up reasonably. It's not as big a lead as you might think. But the point I was going to get to on Goober is that, you know, you put Silver at such a high draft priority that you give up Geist Billy, and your Silver has just been hard focused the entire game. You know, you have a lot of essentially draft power that you banked on when building your team that is just not there. Like, it's a very, very tough spot to be in. But looking here on the right, as Floormen looking to get a little bit more active.
Yeah, Lash with the Headhunter is going to be hard to trade with in this lane, but he's kind of low HP, so it's hard for him to really get in there and threaten. And here comes the assassination. AVG comes out of nowhere, and Lash in a hell of a spot. Infernus ult not even needed for that kill as Ivy comes in over the top, secures the Guardian take. And we haven't watched this lane too much so far in the game, but I think this is definitely going to be a strong point for the Floormen. I think Infernus is actually going to be a really key team fighter. A catch on a Warden would be exactly what the Doctor ordered. Desperately, Arctic's trying to run for the hills, but Silver finds her revenge there with the help of a rocker rotation. So that's a great one to kill off one of those late game cores for Bird with Clock and get Goober back into the game.
About to be 10 minutes. Buffs coming up here in a moment. Bird with Clock firmly camped out on the left, and also Meg at the right. Both
Yeah,
buffs
get both
on the
That's
table,
big.
yeah. And they get survival on Geist.
Those are like
Aiden.
dream buffs.
Yeah.
Spirit on Mina, survival on Geist. That is actually brutal. I will say a 5k soul lead has developed. Like AVG and Rocker finding some assassinations with the burst soul damage. See if AVG can find another. Mina's pouring in a lot of damage here with the Nox Nostra. Seems like Xeno has shirked most of it. He's still running for the hills. The Lash ulti tries to send DMB into a tough spot. Rather, that's Tanner and DMB, both of them. Tanner somehow dies in that trade. DMB eventually is hunted down. This one's turning into a real bloodbath CP here.
Yeah, I mean, both teams throwing down here, and neither team with a huge advantage here. Just yep, a Goober picking up the scrap. Slamfire in the Arctic. Lycancurse back out once more, and Goober quickly making up the advantage. Able to get another with the help of his team. And still not done yet. Diving forward, looking for Lash, able to finish it off with the help of AVG. And just like that, Goober is back in this game.
I was worried about them at the very start of the game, but like that kind of a mid-game winning trade is exactly what the Floormen draft is going for. And Ivy is going to pick up a Guardian as well. So Zeno really assisting with the macro. Has that healing Nova, which is really going to allow the team to push the pace and show up a lot more to these engagements. And he's going to fly over and try to assist DMB with this Guardian defense. But yeah, thinks better of it. Just Paige Billy already have that one done.
Not a lot of tools to defend this Urn if they're even able to push up the lane here, which is very much a question. Floormen making plenty of space in the lane. AVG, the easiest dunk of his life, off on the right. And what was looking to be... Oh, my word. Cool Cheese just burned to a crisp. And Jake, was looking to be a pretty even game, is very quickly started to get away from Bird with Clock.
Yeah, kind of out of nowhere, Infernus gone for a very tanky build, pushing the pace on League. You kind of see why they went for this player-hero combination. They don't want to play for this late game. They want to really tempo this up. Goober in behind the tower. League continuing to push that damage down. Matt would love to find some trade damage, but AVG sticks around long enough to finish the Walker and still has ulti. So this does not feel like a realistic chase down whatsoever. Calico gonna use that return to Shadow. Is gonna fly up to the roof. Matt thinking about a chase, but this one feels unlikely.
Oh man, how things turn. I mean, Jake, just a moment ago, we were looking at a 10K lead that is now ballooned to 20. And even with Goober getting finished off by Matt, man, oh man, this is a tough spot for Bird with Clock to suddenly find themselves in. And, you know, this is kind of a spot here where if you're Bird with Clock and you're shot calling, it's like, okay, slow things down a little bit. Don't give up a Walker, play for advantage earn. Coming up, Noxostor from Matt. At the very least, gonna put League on the back foot, and Matt.
Heals from Ivy are huge. Yeah. Zeno just gets League up to like past half HP. The space created to take the Guardian, it is something, but Cool Cheese dies elsewhere on the map. Are you really going to be able to push left lane? Like DMB is just going to be holding down that Walker against the Paige Billy. And like you said, 20,000 solely. It's like this kind of out of nowhere. I'm kind of stunned about this one. Mina does buy up the Toxic as well as a stamina upgrade. So a couple key items, and I think this is a moment where we need to see big kills coming in out of map, but they're pretty hard to find at this point in the game. Like
Matt's getting jumped on right now. Well, take a look at Matt. It's three people looking for a piece of Matt, and Matt is all sorts of low. Is Matt even gonna be able to get away? Gets a little bit of assistance from the team, and most we can ferry out from the minimap here. And yeah, Matt was able to get back into base. Minute and a half till Urn spawns on the right. And again, I think for Bird with Clock here, Jake, the upside here is that you get advantage earn at 15. You can maybe run advantage earn, but you need to not have the game just get completely fly away from you in the interim.
Yeah, the explosive aggression here from Floormen continues. DMB leading the charge here, really going for it. Matt wants to punish him. The Toxic is going to bite onto this Venator, but with Zeno in tow, it's going to be a pretty tough kill to grab. And Matt's just going to have to settle for zoning away. Another trap onto Goober, but the Lycancurse, just way too much tankiness here to really threaten this Silver. Fights are continuing, skirmishing all over the map, though, and Floormen managing to, I think, shape this game to their strengths, right? Using the Ivy now to have a big dive bomb onto the last, just absolutely assassinated. Sends in the Calico like a nuclear bomb there, dropped from orbit.
Matt, being one of the few people for Bird of Clock that can evenly fight, but is now again getting jumped on and what was looking like a 2-on-1. Instead, AVG says, nah, I don't want any part of this. Instead, see me in left lane. Upsides here for Bird with Clock, though. Urn is spawning in 10 seconds. It is going to be advantage earnable. And while they're down one Walker, the two Walkers they have left are actually pretty defensible health-wise. Like, they haven't given up too much here. The problem is that just moving around the map is such a huge threat as, you know, bit of a deny buff there for DMB. Casting, kind of a sad RNG moment for a Ven, but, you know, if you have the casting buff, at least it means that Matt doesn't have the casting buff.
Still double buffs grabbed, and with this kind of soul lead, right, Urn is picked up. However, this is that sort of unfortunate middle ground soul lead where, yes, you have enough strength to like easily pick up the Urn, but it's a comeback Urn. I don't know that you're really going to want to go into enemy territory. They're posturing for it, though. They're kind of walking up, and Bird with Clock are going to make an aggressive move on the left Walker right now. Prime put a ton of pressure on, so Xeno feels he's got to go for the dunk. He's got to attempt this to punish. Lash is here trying to deny it, knocks the urn out of the hands, and the pressure here, Matt finding exactly the opportunity he was hoping for to get aggressive, get into the fight. Still, the punish is good. Floormen grab 1 kill back, but they're just fighting all over the map right now, ZP. They're refusing to give this big 6-man team fight. A massive 3-man Lash ult pulls people into a tough spot, but Infernus has the means to get out of there, and potentially so do Ivy. They're just pumping in that damage. Matt goes down, all in, trying to follow up on the Lash ult. You understand the desperation, but 4 players now on the deck for Bird with Clock. Page off the respawn, but this is Yamato just still sitting on her ult. I feel like Rocker has not been forced to Yamato ult this game. He has just been able to throw out that damage with impunity.
No shadow transformations required. Urn dunked in by Floormen. The lead continuing to be maintained by the Floormen here so far. They don't give up a Walker in trade where, you know, for Bird with Clock, I think there was a world where if Floormen were overcommitted to the Urn, they were actually okay just doing Walker for Urn at that point. Get the flex slot, you know, play for a little bit later in the game. I think like 15-minute Urn versus Walker, it's about equivalent on value, but they, in the end, Jake, all they get is like a little bit of damage onto the Walker. They lose the subsequent fight and still find themselves quite a bit behind.
Jake, if they get mid-boss, is this game over for Floormen?
I think if it's a clean mid-boss take, Floormen are going to be in a fantastic spot. However, that is Bird with Clock's best moment fight. Like, I think going for a mid-boss flip is, you do have Yamato, right? Which maybe is enough, but still, you know, if your whole team groups up and you get caught with these big AoE ultis, I think even with this soul disadvantage, Bird with Clock's draft, that's how they find the comeback. So Floormen don't want to give him that kind of opportunity. They want to continue to find these skirmish kills. Goober continuing to look for more of that, pops the Lycan Curse, pulls a lot of attention on himself. He is the tankiest potentially to survive this. Tanner's going to go for it, but the help is here. Goober is down, but is this an overextension? Bird with Clock bringing numbers. They want to continue this fight. Finally, Rocker pops Shadow Transformation. Bird with Clock potentially just routing here. Big damage onto this Page, who just has to back off to the high ground. She lives for now. And with Matt not in this fight, Bird with Clock, do they still want to commit to this? I think Floormen are maybe hoping to find some more trades here.
Floormen, though, starting to run out a little bit, yes. Bird with Clock getting their ults back online, and now Matt is rotating back in, maybe for the cleanup. Not going to be time to save Tanner. We'll see how the final parts of this fight potentially go down. Nox Nostra at the ready. See an airdrop to Vet DMB going off on a ride. And yeah, Floormen actually making the right choice here to get away. I think if they had stayed a little bit longer, that's something Bird with Clock actually may have been able to turn, just given the ult situation and where it was at. And even still, Bird with Clock looked to get a little bit aggressive here. Not quite able to land the jail on the Ivy. A little bit too slippery from Xeno in this instance.
I mean, that's
minute
like
and a half, Jake.
The first glimpse, ZP, of the strength of Bird with Clock in the 6-man team fight, or with most of the players. I think Matt was pushing, clearing up a side wave. But hey, if you even just get that big group up, right, some of these powerful AoE tools make your team stronger than the sum of its parts. And Floormen, they're insane at finding these scrappy burst pick-off kills, but can they really contend on an objective? They're looking for that decisive fight where, with enough Bird with Clock players dead, it's a free mid-boss. But if you can't find that, despite the soul lead, I think this game is actually closer than it would seem.
Also, one thing that's about to be a problem for, well, hold on, as we said, 3 members looking for Aiden. Aiden quickly on the way out. Not the easiest kill in any case, holding on to the soul exchange. But taking a look at where we're at right now, Bird with Clock in on the rotation, actually maybe looking for a pick of their own. See if Kulchi's able to find anything in on the Death Slam. Tanner going a little bit deep. Chain Gang pulled out, and
nice counter
going to be here. It's a little messy so far.
Counterspell from DMB. The chain doesn't get the pull, and I think he's going to be out of there. And meanwhile, Matt in massive trouble, being run down here by AVG, and the Torment Pulse gets the job done. That's a really huge kill, though other members have kind of risen to rival Matt in terms of their fighting power. Still, with 1 starter kill, it might be enough for Floormen to push the advantage. They're looking for anything they can as far as a window into one of those big team fights. And as we approach 20 minutes, buffs and Earn online. This is a moment where Bird with Clock, yeah, you're down 1. If you don't contest, though, things could get a little bit ugly, as it is a comeback earn, but giving double buffs is a pretty high price to pay.
Also, Cool Cheese is just full on support Lash at this point. I just, looking at the allocation, that is about as poverty-ridden as a Lash is ever going to get, which really isn't great on Lash as a hero. I mean, as Lash, you like the ability to have Ground Strike actually be threatening, but here comes Matt. Got to force Shadow Transformation in out of Rocker, and Rocker
doubling
is
down.
just leaving.
I like that Arctic's chasing this, though. but oh, maybe he bought off more than he could chew. He went all in, and inside the small room, man, Rocker is king. Mystic Reverb up on the Yamato, man. Her spirit damage is nothing to scoff at. And Matt even popping the Nox Nostra, but he's just getting gunned down. DMB. Man mode there continues to take that trade and starting to pump big damage into this Walker. Ooh, okay, he's going to be fine on that one, and he's going to get the clean Walker take for 2 players. So that's a lot of souls going their way. Earn being right at the same time. The game's starting to crumble here for Bird with Clock.
Xeno's going to get the easiest dunk of his life. Chang Gang here, enough to punish AVG, but okay, while you're looking at AVG, take a look towards the urn. Captivating read, going to delay it a little bit. Lash from the back. Cool Cheese maybe broke, but still enough. Wait, grabs urn? No. Melee in from Xeno. Enough to force a drop. And Cool Cheese, you're not exactly tanky in this situation. Goes down. Cannot fully prevent the dunk. And now the rest of Floormen looking to punish those who dared to even come over. And Arctic, no way out. Once more, gonna burn.
Look at this build, man. No gun investment from League. He is like full tank here with the spirit damage to boot, and I actually kind of like it, right? He's been able to brawl with the best of them up against this heavy team fighting draft, right? That gun investment, you would have been really vulnerable. Instead, he's gone all in on the sustain, the survivability, and just the raw damage he can put out with the spells. And League has been a bit of the unsung hero. I mean, has he died this game? It's been an extraordinarily clean game on the Infernus.
If League died, it was in the first 5 minutes, and otherwise has not been the case. And I mean, look overall at the game state now, Jake. 3 rejuves the Floormen, a massive lead. There's not really a bunch of win conditions left here. I mean, ideally, maybe you just get the Death Slam of the Heavens from Cool Cheese, Chain Gang follow-up. I mean, you have a little bit of wombo combo for Birth Clock, but is it realistic that that's going to pan out at this point? Not really. I mean, Bird with Clock now effectively are praying for a mistake from Floormen. And even if they make a mistake, they still got 3 rejuves right now, so they may need a little bit more than that.
And Goober just makes a huge investment into his tankiness here. The Spirit Resilience is going to make a massive amount of difference, given that like Matt massively biased towards spirit damage. Even Arctic and Aiden are going to do a pretty reasonable amount of their damage in the spirit form. So I like this investment for Goober, trying to like live through some of these big combos. And Rocker has Refresher. So, I mean, Yamato with 2 Shadow Transformations plus the rejuves. It's tough to see how they make their way into this one. And I love that they're fighting from the small room where it's really hard for Lash to get the connection. Looks like Rocker in on the backline with the Shadow Transform. He's just going to put a bunch of damage down on the Walker. Maybe that's the best they can do for now, but they kind of would look for more on this team by Cool Cheese. Poverty mode, cannot tank even for a second here, and Rocker just eats him for breakfast.
Just every left click taking massive chunks out of Cool Cheese's back, and Rocker's not done yet. Another power slash, this time directly on the Tanner. Flying strike over into Matt. Rocker throwing hands with just about everyone available. And why not? You're at 3,200 HP, Yamato. You got 2 hits of Shadow Transformation. What's actually threatening you at this point?
Yeah, he's an absolute beast. And the game just completely out of hand now. And League's Infernus continuing to just run laps around them, putting pressure on the shrines now. And it's been a while since we've seen Bird with Clock put up any kind of fight. AVG, super low HP, might be dropping the first rejuve, but they're trading kills for it, which is exactly what you want in the situation, as Floormen pushing to end the game here and now. A stone form from Xeno dunks down onto Aiden. Lashold is good, and it doesn't even quite get Yam into the base. No chance she's going to die from that. Refresher Shadow Transform. Bird with Clock are respawning quickly. They're in their own throne, so I think Floormen getting a little bit overconfident to try and play this aggressive, but they still have 3 rejuves, EP.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, burn a rejuve, not a problem. First stage patron gonna go down, and frankly, if you're Floormen, I think you just stay at this point. The stat difference is so high, but okay. I think Floormen, they're gonna play it by the book. They'd say, you know what? Let's just be boo about this. Boo. I don't know, Jake. Like,
I think this is a good play. Actually, this is like for sure a good play. Buffs and Urn spawning. Everyone has a huge bag from all the money you've gotten with all those kills. Like, go spend your items, get your souls onto the map, and you might even be able to push the tempo and force another fight before the rejuve expires. It's a little bit tight for that, but this is a best of 1. I think this is absolutely the right call here from the floor.
Jake, as the CFO, how do you feel about putting up another bounty for finishing games under 25 minutes?
that would be spicy, honestly. I don't.
Right? Give you a little something to work with. If you're up this much, why not be a little bit risky? We got to give them a reward. Chat, help me work on something.
And then you could be the first team that loses your BO1 because you went for the bounty and died and then lost the game. You know, high risk, high reward. would suppose here. We just couldn't show what's about to happen to the page.
They still have the
actually
rejuves.
Deadly. Unsponsorable as AVG dives in after Gibbs. And, Gibbs lived a little bit longer than expected, but still down. 3 rejuves still available, and this time around, Floormen, they will not be on the retreat. A dispatching of Bird with Clock as they get their rematch up against melee creeps right after this.
They're getting that defender resist on, but they just can't stand the test here in the pit. Still a few more seconds to use those rejuves, and they won't even need them. Floormen, tour de force here. Summary execution. Bird with Clock having their first appearance here in the night shift in quite some time. And that one is going to sting, man. They are going to be really reeling from that because I mean, we looked at that draft, but I thought, okay, the team fight is sick. I'm sure that's what they were thinking too as they built this draft. Like, hey, we can get those kind of fights. And then the game just snowballed out of control. Floormen brought a level of pace and a sort of tempo of strategy that I don't know that we've seen much in the past, especially in NA. People have been playing things slow for quite some time, and Floormen flipped the script, finding their own speed. And I think this portends really well for them to go into the money match with something that feels really innovative, feels really hard to respond to.
Hey, Jake, guess who's 0-4 on the day? Lady Geist. Hold that, L lady. Let's take a look at your winners. It's AVG, Goober, Rocker, League, DMB, and Xeno. I honestly think I'm just angry at Lady Geist because I had to play 3 of them earlier in Street Brawl. This has been the wildest day ever. And I saw chat saying, high key, I wish we saw multi-same hero. Jake, what if we had 12 Sinclairs?
God, what would happen if you stole the Sinclair ult? It just doesn't do anything. you just
keep stealing it.
You just
keep stealing it. All right, you guys could chew on that one as we take a look back at the highlights. I asked you guys what would happen if the mid boss went to Floormen. You said this game would be over. About 6 minutes later, it absolutely was. ZP, before we got to that, though, what happened in the first 10 minutes?
I mean, first 10 minutes, Goober was on the floor. I mean, he was actually living up to the name Floormen as Floormen in chief. I mean, the amount of pressure that Bird with Clock brought in to try and mitigate Silver as a threat in this game was admirable. And it looked like we had all the makings of just a Silver that wasn't going to do anything. And then suddenly we just had this long fight in on the left. And off on the left fight, Goober was able to be scrappy, pick up multiple kills, got right back in there souls-wise, and all the work that was done to mitigate Silver went to the wayside. And I don't know, we just had multiple skirmishes in a row after that. Everything went against Bird with Clock, and the lead went from non-existent to about 25,000 souls in less than 3 minutes. It was one of the quickest ways I think I've seen a game just go one team's way in a very long time.
Do you think AVG or Rocker's Yamato had a bigger impact? Because we haven't seen a ton of Calico, Jake.
I mean, I think it was really the combination, right? The Yamato, the Calico, and the Silver all together able to like jump in on top of these plays, like often assisted by Xeno bringing them in or by League kind of baiting an engagement, which is what Infernus is particularly amazing at, right? Like baiting people to try to kill him. He runs away, he re-engages, he's like, you're ticking out the whole time. So this is a draft that initially I didn't see the vision when we were looking at the draft, but I got to give a lot of credit to Floormen because they brought something here that is really scary. Like, I don't know what you're supposed to do going up against this. Maybe in theory you sort of sustain to the late game, but yeah, it's a lot easier said than done the way this game went.
Charles Medic in the chat says, Puggett, was that you in my game? I had 3 Geist. Well, if it was only 3 rounds and you were on the losing side, yeah, we were teammates, bro. Let's never talk about it again. Well, we take a look at these numbers that are good. They're shiny on the left side, right side, not so good. Do you keep playing the Lash if you're going up against Floormen, or was this just an off game that got out of his control, ZP?
I think it was definitely a bit of an off game that went completely out of Bird with Clock's control. They had like several bad fights on the left side that they were just not able to recover from. I mean, Cool Cheese, this was not a performance that was ultra typical, but it's unfortunate, right? Because if you fall really far behind on Lash, the hero actually stops functioning the way you want to, where Lash wants to threaten with scary neutral game, where just getting hit by a ground strike can chunk your HP. Cool Cheese was threatening no one this game aside from like
no
Death
damage,
Slam, you still
no tanking.
Yeah, I mean Death Slam you still have to respect, but other than that, I don't know, it was a bit tough. And even though Matt had a really good early game, it just fell apart so quickly that it was gone. And also, the fact that Goober ends up with top damage in the game after that awful beginning says a lot, both about Floormen's recovery and Silver's ability to
how
come from
good
behind.
Silver is. She was absolutely devastating. Meanwhile, I felt like the Warden left something more wanting there. Jake, is Warden going to be played more in NA? If not, what else can you do on the front line?
I feel like this is a pretty big indictment game for Warden because when the start went about as good as you could hope, right? Tons of kills onto Goober. Felt like the game was really starting the way they wanted, but it just fell apart, right? Like the ulti didn't feel impactful, and I think while the Warden was strong at moments, ultimately it was like the Lash and the Page just assassinated every single team fight. They felt like they couldn't really play the game because some of these Floormen heroes, like the Silver, the Calico, and the Yamato, just kind of like running at you with the assistance of Xeno dropping them into your backline. It's like that like scary style to play against. Like in theory, you want some of these big team fight tools, but when they're on like an underfarmed Lash or Page, they just become a liability. And the way Floormen played, it makes you think, hey, maybe this is a new way to sort of approach the game. And rather than prepping for these big team fights, you can just scrap it out, take out the enemy threats before they can really get their value off into the game. And maybe that changes we get deep enough into the late game. But I think there's something to be said for a Deadlock played at this kind of pace. Like it's a harder style to play. Like if you make mistakes and throw some big team fights, the game can easily get out of control and maybe you're not able to really contest deep down the stretch. But, if you're a team with confidence in your execution, you think we're just going to run the table in 20 minutes. It's a little bit scary. Like, do you really want to go up against that? Especially as we look ahead to the money match, even Melee Creeps, they might be one of the best teams in the world at navigating those kinds of challenges, protecting each other from those burst kills. But, they're going to need all of that skill the way Floormen are playing.
Goober dropping the 6-7 on us, ZP, as we round out this game. Everyone's talking about Silver in the chat. So question, if I steal Infernus, can I burn her down? Like, how do I counter the Silver outside of banning her? Because she seems to be a super high impactful character over the last 2 weeks, right up there with Celeste.
I mean, overall, I don't think there is like a raw counter the Silver, aside from the fact that if you first pick Silver, you take high quality heroes in response. I think the Bird with Clock draft kind of did that. I think going with Geist Billy made a lot of sense. The problem is
0-4 Geist.
Yeah, okay, look, if Silver's on the other team, you're still gonna have to play well the entire game and not give her opportunities. And I think the game plan for Bird the Clock was sound. They just, again, things fell apart on the left. Also, I was zoned out for a little bit there because I was threatening AVG, telling him that Loaded Diaper was going to get changed out of the tournament if AVG did not change his name to AVG for our finals.
AVG stands for average, not to be confused with the other A guy. Let's take a look here at your MVP, though, Jake, as we stick on the acronym train. Who do we got today?
It's had to be Rocker here on the Yamato. I mean, just a huge performance from him. I was kind of blown away when we went to his POV and I'm like, what the? He has reverb. 18 minutes, man. Crazy tempo on the Yamato. 10-1 and 15. He's in more or less every fight after the early game. And with one death, like I noticed at some point, like I don't think he'd use the Shadow Transform, at least not that we saw, for so long, which is a testament to how dominant his game is. He was never really challenged after, I think like one early trade. And it was this crucial parry on Tanner. It kind of started the game off on the right foot.
He played his life so well at the start.
Yeah, and then we felt it in the late game, man. Like just absolutely walking them down, not really losing the HP. Has a refresher, doesn't even really need it. Like in this game,
ZP,
he probably could have gotten something else.
I never saw a refresher until Street Brawl. Finally, I could afford one. And now I feel like it's broken and it breaks the game. How do you maximize the use of a refresher with Yamato? Because he never got a chance to abuse it.
I mean, you basically get to go in early, whereas is for Yamato, you get a lot of value if you use the ult a little bit on the earlier side, but you can more freely go, okay, I'm just going to engage with ult, and you realize if you get into trouble, well, you can pop refresher and grab another ult thereafter, right? It gives you a lot of flexibility for using it aggressively, and if you bite off more than you can chew, you still have the second ult ready to go. Also, you pump out a lot of damage between, being able to power slash, ult power slash, ult power slash, in between all of that. It works out well for Yamato, even if it hasn't been seen as much in recent times.
I first heard of Rocker when people left Hydranation's team to join Rocker instead of Hydration. Then Hydration even joined up with Rocker. Now you get to see why Rocker's really good, because he just said to use Yamato, and he also has 3 more games potentially to play because he is moving on to your grand final battle. After this, we are going to see the great melee creeps, the cats in the suits, taking on the floor people. Will we go to a game 3? Stay tuned to find out if Viscous is still sticky, if the Goober is silver, or if the furries are all gonna be bummed out. The CNA finals after this.